During a Lake Tahoe family trip, my parents locked my 9-year-old son on a freezing hotel balcony while taking my brother's kids on a private snowmobile tour. "He whines too much," Mom said. Dad added, "Let him cool off." I didn't yell, I acted. Within 60 minutes, resort security was at their suite door, and my brother went pale when he heard the room number. The sliding door was locked from the inside, and my son was on the other side of it. I saw him through the glass before I saw the lock. Nye was sitting in the corner of the balcony with his knees drawn to his chest and his red puffer jacket zipped to his chin, and his hands tucked under his arms because his gloves were inside the suite on the bed. Next to his hat and his scarf and the book he had been reading when I left for my spa appointment 90 minutes ago. He was 9 years old. He was sitting on a concrete balcony on the 4th floor of the North Star Lodge at Lake Tahoe in 28-degree air, and the air was the kind of cold that does not announce itself with wind, but settles into the body the way water settles into fabric, slowly, completely, and with the patience of something that knows it has time. His hands were red, not pink. Red, the red of skin that has been exposed to temperatures below freezing for long enough that the capillaries have constricted and the blood has retreated from the surface, and the surface is telling the body what the body already knows, which is that the surface is losing. His lips were pale. His body was shaking. Not the dramatic shivering of a person who has just stepped into cold air, but the low, continuous tremor of a body that has been cold for 47 minutes and has moved past shivering into the kind of trembling that is quieter and more serious, because the quietness means the body is conserving energy, and the conservation means the body is losing the argument with thee. Temperature. I pulled the sliding door. Locked, I pulled again. The lock was the interior latch, the kind that flips down on the inside frame, and the latch was down because someone had flipped it after Nye went out, and the flipping was deliberate because balcony latches do not flip themselves, and 9-year-olds do not lock themselves outside in 28-degree weather without their gloves. "Nye, baby, I am right here. I am going to get this door open." He looked at me through the glass. His eyes were dry. He had not been crying. He had stopped crying before I arrived. Later, the resort's hallway security cameras would show what happened outside the suite door, my mother Tyne leaving suite 412 at 10:17, and with my father Harte and my brother Merrick's 2 children, walking toward the elevator, and Nye not among them. The cameras showed who left. The locked latch on the inside of the sliding door showed what they left behind. The 47 minutes between the departure and my return from the spa at 11:02 a.m. were the minutes my son spent on a concrete balcony in 28-degree air because his grandmother decided he whined too much. I ran to the front desk. The hallway was 14 steps. The elevator was 30 seconds. The lobby was 40 feet from the elevator bank. I need someone to open suite 412 immediately. My son is locked on the balcony. He is 9 years old. He has been outside in 28-degree weather for approximately 45 minutes. He has asthma. His inhaler is inside the room. The front desk manager, a woman named Petra, picked up the radio. "Security to suite 412. Medical standby to suite 412. Child locked on exterior balcony. Cold exposure. Asthma risk." The response took 4 minutes. A security officer and the resort's on-call nurse arrived at the suite simultaneously. The security officer opened the door with a master key. I ran to the balcony. I slid the glass door open. The cold air hit my face, and the cold was the temperature my son had been breathing for 47 minutes. And the breathing was the thing that mattered, because Nye has mild asthma, and cold air is an asthma trigger, and the trigger had been pulled by the same people who were supposed to protect him. I picked Nye up. He was lighter than he should have been, the lightness of a body that has been tensing against cold for so long that the tension has become exhaustion, and the exhaustion has made the body smaller. I carried him inside. I set him on the bed. The nurse checked his pulse, his oxygen, his capillary refill. His hands were beginning to warm. His oxygen was 94, which is low for a healthy child and lower for a child with asthma who has been breathing 28-degree air for 47 minutes. She wrapped his hands in warm towels. She gave him his inhaler, 2 puffs, the inhaler that had been on the nightstand 10 feet from the balcony door, the inhaler that a grandmother who knows about the asthma had left on the wrong side of the glass. "Who locked this door?" the nurse asked. "My mother. She locked my son on the balcony and took my brother's children on a snowmobile tour." The nurse looked at the security officer. The security officer looked at me. And the look that passed between them was the look of 2 professionals who have just heard a sentence that crosses a line, and the line is not a hotel policy. The line is a statute. A child locked on a freezing balcony by a supervising adult is not a family disagreement. It is child endangerment. And child endangerment is a mandatory reporting event for the nurse, who reached for her radio and said 6 words I had been waiting to hear since I saw Nine's hands through the glass. "I need to file a report." Welcome to Karma Unfolded, where the person who books the hotel is the person who decides who stays in it. If your family has ever locked your child in freezing air and called it a lesson, subscribe now. Because the balcony was 28 degrees and the sliding door was locked and the nurse is filing a report and the rooms I paid for are about to be canceled. My name is Elodie Croft. I am 33 years old. I am a corporate travel planner at Redwood Tech Solutions in Reno, Nevada. I book executive travel, manage hotel accounts, negotiate group rates, process cancellations, and coordinate logistics for a company that sends 42 executives to conferences, retreats, and client meetings across the country every quarter. My salary is $58,000 a year. My family calls my job booking hotels, as if the hotels book themselves and the woman who negotiates rates and manages accounts and coordinates arrivals and departures for 42 people is just clicking buttons on a screen. My boss is Lisbeth. She is 47 years old, has been in corporate travel for 22 years, and runs the travel department with the precision of a woman who believes that every trip is a system and every system has a cancellation clause. She is the person who said, when I told her I was planning the Lake Tahoe trip for my family, "If you are paying for the rooms and planning the itinerary and managing the logistics, you are not a guest. You are the planner." And the planner always holds the cancellation button. Lisbeth was right. I am the planner, and the button is in my hand. When I called Lisbeth from the resort lobby at 12:15 p.m., she answered from her home office in Reno with the calm of a woman who has managed travel crises across 14 time zones and has never heard one that involved a locked balcony and a 9-year-old. My parents locked Nye on the balcony. How long? 47 minutes. 28 degrees. His inhaler was inside. You already called security? Security, the nurse, and Placer County. Good. Now cancel the rooms. You have the 4-hour window on the corporate rate. Use it. The woman who books hotels is the woman who knows exactly how to empty them. And Elodie, you did not book that trip so your parents could use it to punish your child. Lisbeth is the reason I check policies. She is the reason I read cancellation clauses. She is the reason I know that the woman who manages the booking manages the outcome. And the outcome of this booking is that 3 suites are about to be vacated by 6 p.m., and the family that locked my son in the cold is about to feel the temperature of a travel planner's response. The favoritism is not new. It is generational. Merrick has always been the son Tyne showcases. Merrick married well. Merrick has an active family. Merrick's children, Pax and Shay, are 10 and 8, both in competitive skiing programs, both loud and physical and the kind of children that grandparents display at gatherings the way trophies are displayed on shelves, prominently, proudly, and in the best light. Nye is not a trophy child. Nye is a quiet boy who reads and draws and asks questions that adults find uncomfortable because the questions are precise and the precision makes the adults feel like the answer they gave was not enough. Nye is the kind of child who sits in a room and makes the room quieter, and the quiet is interpreted by my family as absence even when the boy is present. Tyne's treatment of Nye has a pattern. At Thanksgiving 2 years ago, Nye asked to sit at the main table instead of the kids' table. Tyne said, "The main table is for family that contributes." Nye was 7. He did not know what contributes means in the context of a grandmother who counts children the way a banker counts deposits, by the value they add to the portfolio. At Merrick's birthday last year, Tyne gave Pax and Shay $100 each in a card. She gave Nye a pat on the head and the sentence, "You will get yours when you earn it." Earn it. The phrase a grandmother uses for a 9-year-old who has committed no offense except being the child of the daughter who books hotels instead of the son who manages a car dealership. What my family does not know is what this trip costs and who is paying. The Lake Tahoe trip was my idea. I planned it in September, booked it in October, and paid for it in November. 3 suites at North Star Lodge for 4 nights. My suite, $350 per night. Tyne and Hart's suite, $350 per night. Merrick and his wife Jade's suite, $350 per night. 4 nights, $4,200 total in room charges on my visa. The private snowmobile tour, $2,400. A 4-person guided tour through the Tahoe National Forest, booked through the resort's adventure desk, charged to my card. The tour that my parents took Merrick's 2 children on this morning, while my son sat on a balcony in 28-degree air. Ski passes for 6 adults and 3 children for 4 days, $1,800. Meals and resort charges estimated at $2,000. Total trip cost, $10,400. Paid by the woman who books hotels. Enjoyed by the family that locked her son on a balcony. I have also been paying Tyne's property tax for 2 years. $3,600 per year. $7,200. Because Tyne and Hart's retirement income does not cover the tax on the house they own in Sparks. And the gap is mine, and the gap has been filled quietly, because filling gaps quietly is what corporate travel planners do. They solve logistical problems for people who do not want to acknowledge the problems exist. Merrick's car lease co-payment, $280 per month for 18 months. $5,040. Because Merrick's credit was insufficient to lease the SUV he wanted for his family. And the co-payment brought the monthly within his range, and the range has been subsidized by the sister whose son whines too much and whose job is booking hotels. Total invisible support, $10,400 trip, plus $7,200 property tax, plus $5,040 car lease, $22,640. From the woman who books hotels to the family that locked her son on a freezing balcony and took the other grandchildren on a tour she paid for. Nye is 9. He has mild asthma diagnosed at age 4. Cold air, exercise in cold air, and respiratory infections are his triggers. Every member of my family knows this. Tyne knows because I told her when Nye was diagnosed. Hart knows because he was present at the appointment. Merrick knows because Nye has used his inhaler at family gatherings, and the using is visible, and the visibility has never produced concern from anyone except the boy's mother. The family treats Nye's asthma the way the family treats Nye, as an inconvenience that slows the schedule, as a weakness that requires accommodation. As the reason the other grandchildren get priority because the other grandchildren do not need inhalers, and the not needing is interpreted as strength, and the strength is rewarded with snowmobile tours, and the weakness is punished with balconies. Nye did not want to go on the snowmobile tour. He told Tyne at breakfast that he wanted to stay in the suite and read. He was reading The One and Only Ivan by Catherine Applegate, a book about a gorilla who lives in a cage, which is the kind of book Nye chooses because Nye is drawn to stories about creatures in confined spaces who find their way out, and the irony of a boy reading about a caged gorilla being locked on a balcony by his grandmother was an irony that Tyne did not appreciate because Tyne does not. Read and Tyne does not appreciate, and Tyne does not think in metaphors. Tyne thinks in logistics, and the logistics of Nye wanting to read instead of snowmobile were, Nye is inconvenient. The inconvenience must be managed. The management is the balcony. And the balcony is 28 degrees, the 60 minutes. I did not yell, I acted. The acting was the professional in me. The woman who manages 42 executives' travel schedules and knows that when a system fails, the response is not emotion. The response is procedure. And the procedure for a child locked on a balcony in freezing air by a supervising adult is security, medical, police, and cancellation, in that order. Lisbeth trained me to handle emergencies in sequence, not in parallel. Because parallel processing creates gaps, and gaps create liability, and liability is the thing that hurts people. Sequential processing closes gaps. And the gap I was closing was the gap between a locked balcony and a consequence. Minute 1 through minute 4, security and the nurse arrived. Nye was brought inside. The nurse, a woman named Carrie, checked his pulse, his oxygen saturation, and his capillary refill. She wrapped his hands in warm towels that she brought from the first aid station on the second floor. She gave him his inhaler, 2 puffs, the inhaler that had been on the nightstand 10 feet from the balcony door, the inhaler that a grandmother who knows about the asthma had left on the wrong side of the glass. She asked Nye how he was feeling. He said, "My hands hurt." The hurting was the feeling returning. The returning was good. The good was the only good thing that had happened since 10:15 a.m. Minute 8. I called Placer County Sheriff's Office from the hotel lobby phone, standing at the front desk with Petra next to me, and my voice steady, because a voice that shakes delays the intake, and the intake is the first step, and the first step determines the speed of every step after it. I reported child endangerment, a 9-year-old with documented asthma locked on an exterior 4th-floor balcony in 28-degree Fahrenheit weather for approximately 47 minutes by his maternal grandmother, who departed the suite for a recreational activity with other grandchildren. I provided the resort name, address, suite number, child's name, age, medical condition, and the name of the responsible adult, Tyne Croft, age 60. Minute 14, a deputy was dispatched. Estimated arrival, 18 minutes. Minute 22, resort security reviewed the hallway camera footage at my request. I requested it because I am a travel planner, and travel planners know that hotels record hallways, and that recorded hallways are evidence, and that evidence is the thing that separates a family dispute from a legal matter. The footage showed Tyne, Harty, and 2 children exiting suite 412 at 10:17 a.m. and walking to the elevator. Nye was not with them. The footage was time-stamped and high definition. Combined with the physical evidence inside the suite, the locked interior latch on the sliding door, the latch that can only be set from inside, the latch that was in the down position when security opened the room, the footage established 2 facts. Tyne left the suite at 10:17 and without Nye, and the balcony door was locked from the inside before she left. The departure time and the locked latch together were the intent, and the intent was documented. Minute 30, the nurse filed a mandatory report. Under California law, medical professionals who observe evidence of child endangerment are required to report to Child Protective Services. The nurse filed. The report referenced locked exterior balcony, ambient temperature 28°F, duration approximately 47 minutes, child with documented asthma history, absence of cold weather protective gear, supervising adult departed premises during exposure. Minute 38, I open the resort's booking portal on my phone. I am a corporate travel planner. I have booking portals for 14 hotel chains on my phone. The North Star Lodge portal is the same system I use at work, the same interface, the same cancellation button. I canceled Suite 412, Tyne and Hart's room. Cancellation confirmation within 30 seconds. I canceled Suite 416, Merrick and Jade's room. Confirmation within 30 seconds. I kept my own suite, 410, because Nye needed a warm room and a bed and his mother. Minute 40, I canceled the remaining snowmobile tour sessions. $2,400 refunded. I canceled the remaining ski passes. $1,800 refunded. Total cancellation in 2 minutes, $8,400 returned to my Visa. Minute 44, the snowmobile tour returned to the North Lot. Tyne, Hart, and Merrick's 2 children climbed off the machines with red cheeks and wide smiles, and the energy of people who have just had the best morning of the trip, which was $2,400 of the best morning, paid for by the woman whose son was on a balcony. The suites were non-refundable within 24 hours under the standard policy, but I am not a standard guest. I am a corporate travel planner with a negotiated rate through Redwood Tech's Hotel Partnership Program, and the partnership program includes a 4-hour cancellation window that standard guests do not receive. The window was open. The cancellations were clean. And the daughter in me who wanted to give her parents a chance to explain was overruled by the mother in me who had just carried a shivering 9-year-old off a concrete balcony in 28-degree air. The mother won. The mother always wins when the child's hands are red. I almost did not file the police report. The nurse's CP's filing was enough documentation. The security footage was enough evidence. The cancellations were enough consequence. But Nye's inhaler stopped me. It was on the nightstand, 10 feet from the balcony door. The inhaler that Tyne knew about, and that the locked door separated from the boy who needed it, and the separation was not an oversight. The separation was the design. Tyne locked the door knowing the inhaler was inside and the asthma was outside, and the knowing is the difference between carelessness and intent, and intent requires a police report, not just a CP's filing. I almost waited to confront them privately. The lobby was public. The confrontation would be visible. The family would be humiliated in front of strangers. But Nye had been humiliated on a balcony in front of no one, alone, with red hands and no gloves, and a locked door, and the specific humiliation of a child who has been put outside like a pet that misbehaved, and the privacy my parents deserved was exactly the privacy they gave my son, which was none. Welcome back to Karma Unfolded. If you were the mother who found her child shivering on a locked balcony while the family enjoyed a snowmobile tour she paid for, hit subscribe. Because the rooms are canceled and the police report is filed, and the family that locked a boy in the cold is about to learn the temperature of a mother's response. The lobby confrontation happened at 12:30 p.m. Tyne and Hart had been escorted from the north lot to the lobby by resort security, who informed them that an incident report had been filed regarding Suite 412 and that the Placer County Sheriff's Office had been contacted. Merrick was behind them with his 2 children and his wife Jade, who was holding the children's hands with the grip of a woman who has just learned that the afternoon she thought was a vacation is now an investigation. Merrick heard the room number first, Suite 4112. His face went from vacation red to paper white in the time it takes a man. To connect a room number to a balcony to a nephew to a locked door to a police report to the specific realization that the room number is not his room but his parents' room, and the report is about something that happened in his parents' room, and he knew it was happening because Tyne told him at 10:15 and Nye is staying behind. He is on the balcony and Merrick did not ask, "Is the door locked?" And Merrick did not check on the boy, and Merrick loaded his children onto a snowmobile and drove into the forest while his 9-year-old nephew sat on concrete in 28-degree air with no gloves and a locked door and an inhaler on the wrong side of the glass. The pail was the pail of a man who knows he is named in the report. Not as the person who locked the door, as the person who knew and left. Tyne was standing in the lobby in her ski jacket and her snow boots, and the posture of a woman who has been told to wait and does not enjoy waiting and does not understand why she is waiting because the waiting implies wrongdoing, and Tyne does not believe she did wrong. Tyne believes she managed a situation. The situation was Nye. The management was the balcony. And the wrongdoing was the boys, for whining, for wanting to read, for not being the kind of grandchild who snowmobiles. He whines too much. Every trip, every dinner, every gathering, your son is the one who slows everyone down. He cannot keep up with the other children because you have raised him to be fragile. Merrick's kids ski. Merrick's kids snowmobile. Your kid reads on the couch and needs an inhaler when the wind blows. I locked him on the balcony because he refused to go outside, and if you had raised him to be tougher, I would not have had to. The sentence arrived in the lobby at 12:32 p.m. in front of Hart, Merrick, Jade, 2 resort security officers, the front desk manager Petra, 3 guests checking in at the adjacent counter, and the deputy from Placer County who had arrived at 12:28 and was standing near the elevator bank with a notepad and the expression of a law enforcement officer who has just heard a grandmother explain child endangerment as a parenting philosophy. I looked at Tyne. The balcony was 28 degrees. The temperature log is in the security report. Nye was out there for 47 minutes. The hallway camera shows you leaving the suite at 10:17 with Merrick's children and without Nye. The balcony latch was locked from the inside when security arrived. You locked the door, Mom. You walked out. And you took the other grandchildren on a snowmobile tour that cost $2,400. $2,400 that I paid for. On my card. The same card that paid for your suite. The same card that paid for this entire trip. Tyne's chin lifted. This is a family vacation. This is a $10,400 trip that I booked, planned, and paid for. 3 suites, 4 nights, snowmobile tour, ski passes, meals, every dollar from the woman who books hotels, the woman whose son you locked on a freezing balcony while you took the preferred grandchildren on a tour funded by the mother of the child you locked out. I held up my phone. The cancellation confirmations were on the screen. 3 entries. Suite 412, your room, canceled. Suite 416, Merrick's room, canceled. Snowmobile tour, canceled. Ski passes, canceled. Total refunded to my card, $8,400. Your rooms must be vacated by 6 p.m. today. The front desk has been notified. Hart stepped forward. You cannot cancel our rooms in the middle of a trip. I booked the rooms. I paid for the rooms. The reservation is in my name, on my card, through my corporate travel account. I can cancel any room I book the same way I can cancel any booking at work, because the booking belongs to the person who made it, not the person who sleeps in it. And the person who made it is the mother whose son you told to cool off on a concrete balcony in January. It was not that cold. He had a jacket. He had a jacket because I packed the jacket. He did not have gloves because the gloves were inside the room you locked. He did not have a hat because the hat was on the bed next to the gloves you locked him away from. And he did not have his inhaler because the inhaler was on the nightstand 10 feet from a door that you latched from the inside. You left a child with asthma on a balcony without his inhaler in 28-degree air, and your defense is that he had a jacket. The jacket was mine, Dad. I packed it. I zipped it, and I carried him inside in it 47 minutes after you locked him out. Hart's mouth closed. The closing of a man whose defense has been dismantled by a list of items his daughter packed and he locked on the wrong side of a door. I looked at Merrick. You knew. Tyne told you at 10:15 that Nye was on the balcony. You did not ask if the door was locked. You did not ask if he had his inhaler. You did not walk 6 feet down the hallway to check on a 9-year-old boy in 28-degree air. You loaded your children onto a snowmobile I paid for and drove into the forest while your nephew sat on concrete with red hands and a locked door. Your name is in the police report, Merrick, not as the person who locked the door, as the person who knew and left. The deputy standing by the elevator will explain the word complicit if you need him to. Merrick's hands went to his jacket pockets. His face was still white. The white had not faded because the white was not shock. The white was calculation. The calculation of a man whose wife is a school counselor and whose family is now in a CP's database and whose name is in a police report and whose sister paid for the trip and whose sister has canceled the trip and whose life, which looked like a ski vacation 4 hours ago, now looks like a legal file. Jade was standing 6 feet behind Merrick. She had not spoken since the lobby. Her arms were crossed. Her face was the face of a woman who is processing information in the way school counselors process, systematically, quietly, and with the growing understanding that the man she married comes from a family that locks children on balconies and calls it parenting, and the calling is in a police report, and the police report will appear in her next background review. And the background review is the thing that stands between a school counselor and continued employment. Let me give you the full cost, Mom, not just the trip. The full cost. I have been paying your property tax for 2 years. $3,600 a year. $7,200. Your retirement does not cover the tax on the house in Sparks, and the gap has been filled by the daughter who books hotels. Merrick's car lease copayment, $280 a month for 18 months. $5,040. Merrick's credit was not enough for the SUV, and the sister's copayment made it possible. I held up a finger for each number. Total, $22,640 from the woman who books hotels to the family that locked her son on a balcony. And the son's name is Nye. He is 9 years old. He has asthma. His inhaler was on the nightstand 10 feet from the door you locked. You knew about the asthma, Mom. You have known since he was 4. And you locked a child with a respiratory condition on a concrete balcony in 28-degree air without his inhaler, without his gloves, without his hat, and without a single adult who checked on him for 47 minutes. Tyne's posture changed. The ski jacket that had looked confident in the lobby now looked heavy. The weight of a garment designed for cold weather worn by a woman who had used cold weather as a punishment for a child and was now wearing the evidence of the temperature she had chosen. The balcony was 28 degrees. He was out there 47 minutes. You locked a child with asthma in freezing air. The police report is filed. The killing line landed in the lobby the way cold air lands on exposed skin, silently, completely, and without negotiation. Hart sat down on the lobby bench, not chosen. His legs made the decision. The sitting was the collapse of a man whose vacation has become an investigation, and whose daughter has become a complainant, and whose wife has become a suspect, and whose son has become a co-respondent, and whose other daughter, the one who books hotels, has become the person holding every receipt and every cancellation and every report number. The deputy approached. He asked Tyne and Hart to provide a statement regarding the events of the morning. Tyne said, "He was on the balcony for a few minutes. It was not that cold." The deputy checked his notes. The resort temperature log shows 28 degrees Fahrenheit at the time of the incident. The security camera shows a duration of 47 minutes. Tyne did not respond. The not responding was the silence of a woman whose version of events has been contradicted by a thermometer and a camera, and neither of those things negotiates with the word few. Tyne turned to me. "I will apologize to Nay, in person, right now, and I will book him a private ski lesson, a full day. the best instructor. Just withdraw the report and rebook the rooms. This does not have to be a legal matter. You locked my son on a balcony in 28-degree weather without his gloves, without his hat, and without his inhaler. A ski lesson does not undo 47 minutes of cold exposure. The report stays. The rooms stay canceled. And the trip you are standing in was booked and paid for by the woman who books hotels. And the woman who books hotels just unbooked yours. Merrick's wife Jade pulled him aside. The pulling was the gesture of a woman who is a school counselor and who understands that a CPS report associated with her husband's family is a report that could appear in a background review, and background reviews are the thing that school counselors undergo every 2 years. And the thing that appears in the review is the thing that ends the career, and the thing is her husband's name on a police report that says he knew a child was locked on a freezing balcony and drove away on a snowmobile. Jade's face was the face of a woman who married into a family and is now seeing the part of the family that the wedding did not reveal. They vacated by 6 p.m. Tyne and Hart loaded their suitcases into the truck in the resort parking lot in silence. The silence of two people who had arrived at Lake Tahoe as grandparents on a family vacation and were leaving as subjects of a Placer County incident report and a CP's filing. Merrick and Jade loaded their car with the efficiency of a couple who is not speaking to each other and whose not speaking is louder than any conversation they have had in their 2-year marriage. The parking lot was cold, the same cold that had been on the balcony, and the people leaving the resort were feeling the cold for the first time the way my son had felt it for 47 minutes. Except they were wearing gloves and hats, and the feeling was discomfort, and Nye's feeling had been danger. And the difference between discomfort and danger is a locked door and an inhaler on the wrong side of it. I almost called Tyne that evening to check whether they had found a hotel for the night. The daughter in me, the part that plans logistics and solves problems, wanted to make sure two 60-something-year-old people were not driving 4 hours home in the dark. But Nye stopped me. He was on the bed in our suite, wrapped in the duvet, wearing the red puffer jacket because he did not want to take it off. The way children wear jackets indoors when the cold they experienced was not about temperature but about being left. And the wearing is the body's way of keeping itself safe even when the room is warm. His inhaler was on the nightstand. His book was in his lap, open to the page where Even looks out of his enclosure and sees the sky. The boy was warm. The boy was inside. The boy was reading about a gorilla who escapes a cage, and the boy had escaped a balcony, and the escape was not metaphor. The escape was a mother who came back from a spa and found her son's hands red and his gloves on the wrong side of a locked door. The fallout was institutional and legal, and it moved at the speed of a mandatory report. The CP's investigation was opened within 5 business days. A caseworker from Washoe County contacted Tyne by phone and requested a home visit. Because the incident occurred in Placer County, but the subjects reside in Washoe, and the report was forwarded across county lines the way paperwork travels when a child's safety is the subject, quickly, thoroughly, and without regard for the convenience of the adults named in it. The visit occurred at the house in Sparks, whose property tax I had been paying for 2 years. The caseworker reviewed the police report, the resort security footage, the temperature log, the nurse's mandatory report, and Nye's medical records showing his asthma diagnosis. The caseworker asked Tyne why she locked a child with a documented respiratory condition on an exterior balcony in 28-degree weather for 47 minutes. Tyne said he needed fresh air. The caseworker asked why the sliding door was latched from the inside. Tyne said so he would not come back in and bother the other children. The caseworker noted the response. So he would not come back in was the sentence that confirmed the lock was intentional, and the intention was confinement. And confinement of a minor by a supervising adult is the definition the caseworker was trained to identify. The case was referred for further review with a recommendation for supervised contact only. The Placer County Sheriff's report was forwarded to the Washoe County DA's office. The DAW's office reviewed the report, the footage, the temperature log, and the nurse's examination notes. A citation for child endangerment was issued under Nevada Revised Statute 200.508, a misdemeanor carrying a potential fine of up to $2,000 and mandatory parenting education. The citation required a court appearance. The court appearance required an attorney. The attorney required a retainer of $3,500. Tyne and Harte's retirement income does not cover legal fees any more than it covers property taxes, and the daughter who covered the property taxes was no longer covering anything. The property tax payment was canceled. $3,600 per year. The next installment notice arrived at the house in Sparks 4 weeks after the trip. The notice sat on the kitchen table in a house where a caseworker had recently sat, and where the table now held 2 documents that together told the story of a family supported by a daughter they called the one who books hotels, a tax notice and a court summons. Merrick's car lease co-payment was canceled, $280 per month. The lease company contacted Merrick within 2 weeks about the shortfall. The shortfall was the shape of a sister's support withdrawn, and the withdrawal was the consequence of a snowmobile tour taken while a nephew sat on a balcony, and the consequence was monthly and recurring and would not stop arriving until the lease expired in 14 months. Merrick's wife Jade requested a meeting with her school district's HR department the week after the trip. She disclosed the CP's report preemptively, before the background review cycle, because preemptive disclosure is what school counselors do when they understand that a hidden report is worse than a disclosed one. The HR director noted the disclosure, thanked Jade for the transparency, and placed a file marker indicating that a family-associated CP's report existed. The marker would appear in every background review for the duration of Jade's employment. Jade did not speak to Merrick for 4 days after the HR meeting. The 4 days were the longest silence in their marriage, and the silence was the sound of a woman whose professional life has been marked by her husband's family's decision to lock a child on a balcony and drive away. 2 weeks later. Empty, Rose Ski Resort. 30 minutes from Reno. Just Nye and me. A day trip. No suites, no family, no snowmobile tours, no sliding doors with latches, no grandparents deciding which child deserves the mountain and which child deserves the balcony. Just a mother and her son, and a mountain and the kind of cold that a boy chooses instead of the kind that is chosen for him. Nye was wearing the red puffer jacket, the same jacket, the jacket that had been between his body and 28-degree air for 47 minutes on a concrete balcony at North Star Lodge, the jacket that had saved him from hypothermia, the jacket I had zipped to his chin before leaving the house this morning, the same zip I had done 1,000 times. The zip that is a mother's signature on a garment that says, "You are protected." This time, the protection was complete, hat-on knitcap with the fleece lining I bought at Ray. Gloves on. Insulated. Waterproof. The gloves that were not on the wrong side of a locked door. Scarf wrapped once around his neck. Inhaler in the left chest pocket, the pocket closest to his heart. The pocket I had checked twice before we left the house, and once in the parking lot, because checking is what mothers do when the last time their son was in cold air, the cold was a punishment and not a choice. We rode the beginner chairlift. The chair was a 2-person lift that moved slowly up the mountain through a corridor of pine trees with snow on their branches and the kind of silence that mountains produce when the wind is low and the engine is far, and the 2 people on the chair are a mother and a son who are learning how to be in cold air again without the cold meaning something it should not mean. Nye gripped the safety bar. His gloved hands were tight on the metal, the grip of a boy who is measuring the height and the cold, and the openness of a chairlift against the height and the cold, and the confinement of a balcony, and the measuring is the work of a 9-year-old, who is deciding whether the cold is the same cold or a different cold, and the deciding takes the length of the lift ride. And by the top of the mountain the decision is made. He looked down at the snow below the chair, 20 feet of white between his boots and the ground. The white was the same white as the snow on the North Star balcony railing, but the white was different because this white was below him by choice, and the North Star white had been around him by force. "Mom, it is cold up here. It is cold. But you have your jacket, and your gloves, and your hat, and your inhaler, and me." He looked at me. The look of a 9-year-old who is measuring the list against the last time he was cold, the last time when the list was shorter. Jacket, no gloves, no hat, no inhaler, no mother. The list was longer now. And the longer list was the difference between a balcony and a chairlift, between punishment and adventure, between a family that locks you out and a mother who rides up with you. I am okay. I know you are. The chair moved up the mountain. The pine trees passed below. The red jacket was visible against the white snow the way a red jacket is visible against a gray balcony. Except the visibility this time was a boy choosing to be seen in the cold instead of being hidden in it. The jacket was the same. The cold was the same. The boy was different. And the different was the mother next to him, whose gloved hand was on the safety bar next to his gloved hand, and the hands were side by side, and the side by side was the thing the balcony did not have. And the side by side was enough. Welcome back to Karma Unfolded. If this story reminded you that the person who books the trip holds the cancellation button, and that a child in a red jacket on a chairlift is braver than the family that locked him on a balcony, share it tonight. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and tell me, has your family ever punished your child for being different and called it toughening up? I will see you in the next one.